it most of the time it's quite wacky, and with fantasy you can kind of get away with being wacky, if you understand. It's sort of like kind of put it in like, oh yeah, it's like this because in this world it's like that. So I think fantasy complements it well.
I can see where you're coming from. It could be quite a fun idea to have fantasy mixed with platform. But from the way I've always played platform games, I've never seen it, done in fantasy effectively. I've always struggled to see it done. I've always used old platform. First thing that comes to mind, Mario, Sonic, stuff like that. It's all like more kid type games, ones that get you into gaming rather than proper confusing fantasy, new worlds kind of thing.
I can see it working quite well. I mean, you can have your different characters for each thing. You can choose to be like a mage or a melee one, and from that you can just swap out and make it sort of your own game and play it how you want to. I think that will sort of work out quite well in that kind of platform theme. I mean, also it hasn't really been done before, has it? So it's new, it's unique.
It's a sort of RPG aspect.
I think it could work. Yeah, how you upgrade your character over time and sort of conquer the levels. I think it depends what your target audience is, really.
My target audience is just kids our age, like teenagers, between 15 and 20, that I suppose they're fairly knowledgeable about games. So.
Well, depending on how nerdy they are, they're probably...
I mean, at the end of the day, ultimately, the themes are both the same, the gameplay is the same, it's just sort of the...
aesthetics.
The aesthetics that change, doesn't it? You've still got the sort of the same platform thing, you've still got the same kind of weapons. I guess in a way it's just different skins and such, isn't it? So, I don't think it makes that much of a difference.
Depends whether you like aliens or elves.
Well, I think in light of current events, like with Infinite Warfare, Battlefield 1, like people on about, oh, we don't want a futuristic thing, we want something old and boots on the ground thing. So I think when you go sci-fi, people are like, oh great, here you go, it's a sci-fi game again. So oh wait, oh look, there it is, there's a laser gun. Yeah, I think it's sort of people, like we kind of are in the future, we got a lot of technology, people want to go back
with it.
Yeah, like Battlefield 1, that launched incredibly well.
I think with fantasy you can also have more sort of imagination with the weapons and stuff, can't you?
Yeah.
You can be fancy with it but still keep sort of medieval feel if it's going to be that type of fantasy.
Yeah.
It really depends on the game.
I think
if it's designed to try and replicate back then yes, as much as possible.
I think
it's just meant to be a freelance fun
But
thing.
a historically game or a more fantasy role-playing game, what would you prefer out of those two? Like,
I think a more historically accurate game would have a higher age rating in the sense it actually happens and it will be in a way more violent. Sort of. I think I would probably prefer a fantasy themed game because it's different. I think it depends. I think a more historically accurate game will sort of target people who know a lot about the war and are sort of really into that, the kind of weapons and stuff they know. In a way, it can also be educational, can't it, for our sort of age group.
Was like a game Valiant Hearts, which was sort of a platform puzzler. It was like during
that was almost platformy, cartoon looking game, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was historically accurate, and that was for a higher age group.
Yeah, because if you look at the storyline, that was quite a depressing one, wasn't it?
It was really story based. It was trying to show sort of the difficulties of war, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas I think this is more of a level based game.
Yeah, more like how the gameplay is rather than how the story is.
It's designed to, give you a challenge rather than to make you think.
Yeah, that's a good way to put
it. If you want a game that you want people to sort of play and finish, I think a level-based game is better. I think if you want like a mobile game that people can just play whenever they want on the go, where there's no end and you sort of just compare scores, I think Jetpack Joyride is good. I think if you want like sort of a PC game where you get through levels, it's more rewarding to get past level by level by level. They get more difficult. Whereas I think games like Jetpack Joyride can get boring after a
incredibly repetitive.
Yeah, I mean it's fun like if you're bored, if you're like sitting in a train or a bus, you just want to sort of play a game for a bit.
Part of time.
But I think if you want to get a game that's sort of more more mainstream in the way that it's more level based, more games, I think that's more rewarding to finish.
Yeah, it just kind of depends what you want out of it, really.
I think also games like Jetpack Joyride you can't really charge for in terms of money wise.
They all
But
get
you
their
can
money
for
from
level
advertisements, don't they?
Yeah, because you're not going to buy something like Jetpack Joyride from scratch, are you?
No. Well, there are some games though which like do have levels, but also have like an endless mode where you
Yeah.
can literally just carry on to your heart's desire,
That's not a bad idea.
which you could implement. Maybe.
Well, I think
but-
It also be dependent on what sort of time scale you're talking about, because games like Jetpack Joyride are like 44 or 5 minute game, aren't they? If you're just sitting on the bus and you've made somebody get off, you can just quickly shut it off, can't you? Whereas if you're playing more of a complex level-based game where you need to save particular places or whatever, that's going to be really bad in that environment, because if you suddenly need to do something, you're a bit screwed.
yeah.
You either have to decide to not get off at your stop if you're on the bus and wait till you come back round again, or lose your saved data.
I think it depends a lot on what genre it is, if sort of how realistic the graphics are, how violent the violence is. I think if you're shooting with real guns, there's going to be a higher rage rating than something with like sort of mythical weapons or sort of mace things. It's more fantasy. It sort of separates the real from the fake.
You can get away with making things look less gory if it's a fantasy type thing, can't you?
But for something like with a platform with sort of moderate violence, I'd expect like a 12. I think.
I'd expect younger, somewhere around 7.
Really?
Oh, I think
Yeah.
maybe a tad older. No, actually, no, 12.
I think a 12.
Yeah, I'd say 12.
Because I mean, you obviously have the 18s, which are like realistic graphic violence.
Yeah.
Like, you have sort of the Call of Duties and stuff, and you have the 15s, which are
But obviously with those things, it's not really the violence that does it, it's more the theme.
Yeah, sort of like their kind of real world themes. Like,
Because everyone experiences a violence type thing, don't they? Like all do.
Mario is like a what 7?
3, I think, now some of them.
it's
Three.
very small.
But then in Mario, you don't really have any violence. You there's no you jump on their heads. It's very
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when,
It's sort of shake
when they
your
like
arms.
die, they just disappear.
But if you think about like what console this game is going to be made for, I'm going to be making it for
PC.
DS.
Oh, DS.
That's
okay.
my
Oh, DS.
intention. So, would you think that would alter the age rating? And
Definitely.
Yes,
It
because
would
DS
make
is
it
mainly played from what I've seen by young children and old people.
I think it's more that what device it's on is what sort of level of content you make it as. If you put on a DS, you're not going to make it for 18-year-olds because it's not generally, that's not really who's playing it, that's not what you get a DS for. You want it to be sort of like a puzzle-based level kind of lower age rating kind of thing that's not too violent. If you're on a PC though, you're obviously going to have those sort of 18 games,
Oh,
those sort of really graphic games or PS4 or
bit
whatnot.
Doom.
I think for a game, a platformer, you're not really going to have a screenshot of the game itself because that's quite boring in the sense it's just a level, you're not going to get much across. I think what you need to have is like the main character on the front with maybe some like enemies around it that you're going to do and sort of and draw that up like that.
Yeah, make it more
Cartoon.
3D about it.
Yeah,
if it's pixel art, I don't suppose pixel art would be that interesting to look at compared to a more realistic sort of illustrated drawing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
would you prefer? I mean, you guys have just answered it, but you'd obviously prefer to see a more illustrated sort of. But
I think as long as it looks interesting, I mean, what I would do is have a main character on the front, because that's the person you're playing as, that's the main person, and then that has like the main front big thing, and then like around just have sort of things about the game. So I don't know, like in
Common
Mario,
enemy kind of
in
thing.
Mario like question mark blocks or like
Goomba.
mushrooms
Yeah.
or that kind of thing. And I think it needs to be just like the characters around the game, even if they're a bit pixelated. Maybe just I don't know, refine them a bit, make them a bit better quality, light them up.
As if it's the whole pixely nature as part of the charm of the game, then keep that in the front cover.
Yeah.
I don't know though. Like with pixels, like I feel as if you were to like put pixels on like front cover, I always feel like it would come off as shoddy, even if like the game is pixels. Like I just think if you see pixels on like a game cover, you at a glance that just looks like blocks. You don't really register it.
But you don't have to be super realistic when the game isn't that kind of game.
So otherwise it's misleading.
Yeah, that's kind of where that.
Good
like, the
example of that would be
illustrated
Minecraft. I know it's not a platformer, but the whole like perk of the game is it's all pixelated, all simple. So the artwork for all the game covers is that kind of idea.